Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, September 2nd, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about the state of California. Now, recently I made a YouTube video talking about how Gavin Newsom has, in a sense, saw an increase in support in terms of the recall election. That came as a result of brand new polls that put him +4 across the state in terms of saving his recall election. Now, that was just the beginning. As I said in the video title, that was just the start of Gavin Newsom's inevitable incremental claim up higher and higher, and that is actually marked by today with Gavin Newsom being at the strongest point in time, according to the University of California, Berkeley's Public Policy Institute polls. A number of pollsters here. You have Trafalgar Group, which is a Republican pollster. You have Survey USA. You have a number of them that have released numbers out of this race that show him in a much more powerful position than where he was a month ago. So looking at this race, or even 2 weeks ago, looking at the most recent polls that are contributed to this, you have Survey USA, Trafalgar Group, PPIC, CBS News, YouGov, Emerson. I thought Berkeley would be included. Apparently it is not included because of the most recent Trafalgar Group poll. But no matter what you're looking at, including Survey USA, which recently showed Gavin Newsom at yes, remove, being ahead by 11 points, the no, do not remove is now ahead by 8 points amongst a very similar grouping of people. So looking here in the California polls from Survey USA and around the board, all you see is that Newsom is expected to be recalled by kept in office by an average of 8.2%. Now, the last time we updated you guys, it was a 4-point margin in the keep over the remove. Today, that has doubled. And the reason why this is very significant, in addition, is just because of the monumental swings. The Public Policy Institute of California also released a poll that showed no, do not remove was at plus 19% across the state. I believe this might be which the pollster that they are talking about here. Yes, here it is. Public Policy Institute of California, with 58% of likely voters saying that they will reject the recall effort in this election. So plus 19, where does that actually stand amongst all of the polls that have ever been taken for this race? Well, Gavin Newsom was actually in a much more powerful position around the March, May, April time period, and I said that in a weird order. It was March, April, May that I meant to say, where he was in the no, do not remove, the comfortable territory for a good amount, in double digits in that area. And then by the time July hit, it had narrowed up, and then in the beginning of August, arguably a pretty bad time for the Democratic Party, also arguably pretty bad for the Democratic Party right now, yes remove was ahead by 11 points according to Survey USA. They have since released a new poll taken 3 weeks later that show no, do not remove is ahead by 8 points. So looking at the state of California, what exactly do we see here? We are starting to see the breakdown of a similar coalition to the 2018 governor election, at least according to Public Policy Institute. Now, I don't believe that this is the only pollster that should be counted, but it is one that does need to be utilized when averaging it out. And also, only 3 of these polls have been taken in more recent time periods. The beginning of August and late July are not comparable to where we are right now, especially with many things happening across the nation. And a lot of scandals have been coming out against Larry Elder, the top Republican for the recall replacement if it was to go through. So that actually might be scaring some Democratic voters to not vote for the recall effort and to essentially prevent any type of replacement candidate, most likely being a Republican, from taking that position and ending up as governor of the state of California. So to have pollsters in the 3 most recent ones, all taken from the 20th of August forward, all of them with a low point of plus 8 for no, do not remove, with a high point of 19, you can start to see why it's beginning to look like 2018. Now, it's not going to be above a 20-point margin for Gavin Newsom, not at all trying to insinuate that, but it could be somewhere in double digits if Gavin Newsom's climb continues to increase. When I made that video talking about how we are starting to see Gavin Newsom begin to regain support, that's because for a brief period of time, it was neck and neck between keep and remove. It was 0.2% that divided them between the early August through the middle part, where it was just +1 overall. Then it expanded to +4, which was pretty good for Gavin Newsom. Nothing super safe though, because the margin of error in many of these polls are 3.5%, 4.5%. But now that it's +8, it's well without the margin of error, outside the margin of error, and Democrats can actually be obviously not complacent and unenthused, but certainly in a better position and much more comfortable about the status of this race, especially since there are 12 days to go. Now, when Vice President Kamala Harris canceled her plans to campaign for Governor Gavin Newsom, I completely missed this. I did not know that she was canceling her plans. I thought, that she was going to be the one going instead of Joe Biden. Now, that was the initial plan, actually. The initial announcement was that Kamala Harris was going to be campaigning for Gavin Newsom at a drive-in rally to combat the spread of COVID-19. So that's what the initial plan was for. And then you fast forward to a few days after her announcing that she was going to cancel this, Joe Biden is confirmed by Jen Psaki that he still has intentions to visit the state of California to campaign for Gavin Newsom. So it's a little interesting here to see the dynamic. Kamala Harris is not going because of what's happening in Afghanistan, but Joe Biden still plans to. Again, this was confirmed, updated on August 29th. It's interesting to see. Jen Psaki said Mr. Biden still planned to go to California, saying, quote, "I don't have a date for you at this point in time, but that is certainly still his plan." Now, a lot of people were speculating in a similar fashion to Kamala Harris canceling her plans that Joe Biden would also cancel his plans, but there are a number of people heading over to California, and I think that this would be a way for Joe Biden to separate himself for a momentary reason to go and campaign in California. But it doesn't look like it's needed. That was an effort that I would say definitely seemed to be a last-ditch effort for the Democratic Party. It would have helped them at that rut in which they were up 0.2%, but they pushed it out a little far where, Gavin Newsom could have rebounded on his own. And to be honest with you, I'm quite surprised. The fact is that Gavin Newsom was able to rebound quite literally on his own in terms of campaigning, and obviously the continued endorsements of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were big benefits to him. But I will also say that neither of them had visited California and still haven't in terms of campaigning on his side. The main reason why they were visiting both of them visiting the state is because they wanted to ramp up Democratic turnout. If they saw that Joe Biden genuinely came over to California to campaign for Gavin Newsom, the Democrats that are voting would support Gavin Newsom. Same thing with Vice President Harris, who served as the Attorney General of the state and then went on to be a senator from California and, of course, is the Vice President of the United States. And it's not just Biden and Harris that were planning or still are planning to visit the state of California on behalf of Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom seems to be going across both centrist and progressive divides, showing here that Elizabeth Warren actually announcing that she will be campaigning for Gavin Newsom as well. Now, she was actually one of the first senators across the nation to come out against this recall effort. From the very beginning, she labeled this as a Republican recall. Now, initially speaking, she received some type of backlash. People were saying, no, this is not a Republican recall. You're just saying that because you don't want to acknowledge the Democrats that support the recall effort. And obviously, there are a few Democrats that do support the recall effort. But because of this continuous messaging, this continuous Republican recall effort, there's not nearly as much backlash on that type of terminology anymore because that's what it slowly has turned into being. And if you take a look at the recall website themselves, which I don't have up unfortunately, but you can find in the history of the website that it showed at the bottom that it was funded by the California Republican Party, that the recall effort was ran by the former California GOP chairman or someone high-ranking within the California GOP. Just needed to be pointed out because in a sense, it is very much a Republican recall. If you take a look at the party divides, you can see that it's a very similar split to the 2018 governor elections. Not necessarily as good as the 2020 presidential elections in which Joe Biden won by 29 points, but 2018 where the Democrats won by around 21, 22 points, that's when it was actually starting to get good, I would say. That's when you started to see similar results in terms of the way that partisan voting line. But the reason why the numbers are actually narrowed up is because amongst those who are considered to be likely voters, there are more Republicans that are inspired, I would say, than Democrats that are, in terms of percentage, than Democrats that are inspired. The Republican Party has been very excited to vote in this recall effort. They've been very excited to have the opportunity to remove a blue state governor, especially the most populous one. If Republicans can win in California, they can win anywhere. That is the rhetoric that they will use. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. It is possible, though, if Republicans are able to actually recall Newsom and replace him, it does set a very large precedent that in the future, they will have a very good chance at winning in a number of close races. I mean, if California is a state that Biden won by 29 points and Californians successfully, on the Republican side, remove and replace the incumbent Democratic governor, they can utilize that energy. If they won in somewhere where Biden won by 29, what about a state where he won by 7? What about a state where he won by 14? What about a state he won by less than a point? Less than a point. What about a state where he won by just a point? right? These questions would start to arise. If Republicans can win in California, they can win anywhere. In a very similar fashion that Democrats used the argument from the state of Alabama with that Senate race in 2017. If Doug Jones was able to win in Alabama because of organizing and enthusiasm and lack of enthusiasm on the Republican side because of scandals, in a similar fashion to what's happening here with Gavin Newsom, then Democrats were able to utilize that for 2018. They won a number of close races. They won a special election months after, the same way they won the 2017 special election. So all around, this rhetoric feeds into each other. And if Republicans are able to win in California, it would obviously be a very good thing for them. But chances are they won't. These most recent numbers are putting Gavin Newsom in an extremely powerful position. The Public Policy Institute of California, which is based obviously in California and for California, shows that he is at his highest point of the entire recall effort. And it's just fascinating to see, because for a very extensive period of time, I mean, you're talking about what, August 4th through August 23rd, the margin there was exceptionally close. Exceptionally close. Going from being up just 0.2% to being up 8 points is impressive. And the fact that he was able to do it without the extreme help from Vice President Harris and President Biden needs to be noted. But also, the Democratic Party cannot let up on this race. This is not a race where +8 across California is in any position a good number for the Democratic Party. There are real concerns here that are being expressed by the California residents. No matter what, the GOP will inevitably come out on top with this recall effort. And I'll explain what I mean. Looking at the state's 2020 electoral margin, regardless of the scandals that have been brought up against Gavin Newsom, regardless of what has been argued against him, California is likely to vote for Gavin Newsom in keeping him in office, but not nearly by the same amount as they voted for Joe Biden for president of the United States. And Republicans can also utilize that energy. Whether they have an electoral victory or a moral victory or both, that is yet to be seen. An electoral victory would be a victory in California. A moral victory would be narrowing up so close that it's able to be utilized in the future. This moral victory type of attitude is something that got Democrats and got the ball rolling in 2018 for them, 2017 through 2018. It's the same thing that can happen for Republicans ahead of 2022. So no matter what, I don't see this recall effort as something that would be very good for the Democratic Party. Obviously, they're in a better position than they were before, and they can probably be much more comfortable about the race. But by no means does this recall effort even help the Democratic Party, unless they're expanding off of Gavin Newsom's previous margin. And even then, Republicans are going to say he underperformed Joe Biden, even though he never did better than him and never even matched him in terms of expectation. Gavin Newsom just wasn't that guy. Looking at the recall effort here, it just doesn't look good for the Democratic Party, number one, that it's even happening, which is what a lot of Democrats really tried to argue, that this is a waste of taxpayer dollars, as an election in just over a year. You're just doing this in order to start something just to see what would happen. Regardless of what the Democratic Party is arguing, in terms of what the public will see, they will see the state with the most population, with their very well-known governor across the United States, I would say, is being recalled and potentially could lose his seat in the governor's mansion. But he probably won't, and we know that so far. But just all around, I will say that immediately following the election, expect numerous statements from top Republicans, regardless of how the recall effort ends up, that there was either an electoral victory or an additional moral victory. The moral victory is something that will inevitably come, I think, at this point, just seeing how close it is 12 days out. The electoral victory is increasingly getting harder and harder to see as the more and more polling data gets released from this individual race. But Joe Biden is expected still to visit the state of California. We shall see if it's going to go. I'm not entirely sure. Looking at the state of California, looking at everything, we will see. Joe Biden might end up canceling, not entirely sure. Elizabeth Warren seems to be way more comfortable visiting. Kamala Harris has already canceled her visit to the state of California. So it really just depends on the circumstances of American politics. It really depends on the international level. I'm not too hopeful that Joe Biden is going to be visiting the state of California, if I was to say so right now, but it seems, according to Jen Psaki, that he is still inclined to do so. But then again, Gavin Newsom was able to somehow recover his approval rating in terms of the way that the voters respond to this recall effort, enough so that he has rebounded into a pretty okay position, somewhere nearing his highest point during the entire time of the recall effort, and his highest one according to the Public Policy Institute of California. All eyes are going on California. I believe, yes, the election is in 12 days. I do not believe I will be live streaming it. The internet here is very wobbly. cuts in and out, and it would just be unfortunate and be a bad viewing experience. If I tried to, maybe if the Wi-Fi gets better, I will contemplate it. I am also in a common room, which means I'm sharing the room with 3 other people, so it'll also be difficult for me to live stream there, but we will see what happens. I might try to find a way to do so. I will have to wait and see. But other than that, 12 days from now, California governor election on Tuesday. It should be pretty exciting to see. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2021 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.